Welcome to Love in Life, a guide to a positive mindset. My aim is to show you that the key to a happier and more positive mind is to love the life you have. We'll look at tips and tools you can use to improve your mindset, and the best thing is, we'll all be on this journey together. Hey, how are you? Welcome back to Love in Life. So it's been 2 whole weeks since you last heard from me. Once again, I would just like to say thank you so much for your patience whilst I am super duper busy at the moment. But 2 weeks is actually working, every 2 weeks is working really well for me at the moment. So thank you for your patience, but I have heard from one of my OG listeners, and she has actually said, do you know what, every 2 weeks actually works, so don't put any more pressure on yourself. And I thought, how lovely, what an amazing support. I'm so lucky to have the support that I've got. So yeah, thank you so much. I might keep it to every 2 weeks, or I might just throw the odd one out there every now and again. But yeah, we'll just see how it goes. So what have I been up to in the last 2 weeks? So as you know, I am trying to get my accreditation in belief coding. If you haven't heard of belief coding before, then go and look it up. If you just search, go on Instagram, if you're on Instagram, and search up the hashtag belief coding, because I promise you so many different videos and testimonials will come up where you'll learn a bit more about it. And obviously once I have my accreditation, then I'll be able to put something more about it on Instagram, telling you what exactly it is and what I can do. But I beg you, please go and have a look at it. It is amazing. Anyway, so I've been working super duper hard, trying to get all my training sessions in, because I want to get my accreditation by the end of July. And we're on the 19th of July now. So I'm on track. We'll see what happens there. But I wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't for the fact that I had such supportive listeners and a supportive family around me and friends who were able to help me out. So I am so lucky and so grateful. So thank you to everybody who helps me there. But I am absolutely loving all these practice sessions. Like everyone that I'm doing myself, performing on somebody else, I learn something new every time, and something new always comes up, which is great. And as I've said before, I also need to have the sessions done on myself as well, so as I can obviously see both sides of the spectrum. And not only that, but we've all got limiting beliefs or discomforts that hold us back in some way, whether you think you have or not. We all have, or ways that we act or react in ways that we wish we could react differently or respond differently. So what was I going to say? Yeah, so I'm obviously having sessions done on myself. And again, I'm just learning so much about myself. I just love it. It's amazing. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. I also went to Sheffield last week to take part in a business coaching training day. And again, learned so much. So I've been here, there and everywhere in the last couple of months, and I can't believe that only 6 weeks ago, when I went on that podcasting exhibition, do you remember how nervous I was and how anxious I was about that? And because it was my first time traveling on my own, working away on my own, really putting myself out there on my own. And I've just done my third working away on my own for professional reasons. I've just done my third one in 6 weeks, and it's just got easier and easier. And that's the thing, the more you do something, the easier it does get. And if you're able to speed that up in some way, which I've obviously been able to do with belief coding, then, well, that's even better. So I wanted to tell you about one of the sessions I had done on myself very quickly. And one of my sessions that I had last week, and it was that I compare myself to others. So I often, in a professional situation, I say often, I've always done this, especially when I had my cake business, I would compare myself to other people all the time. I would look at other people's work on Instagram and I would think, I didn't always realise I was thinking this, but I would pick apart my work, compare it to somebody else's work. And it's something I've always done in a professional, in a professional manner. Not professional manner, that makes no sense. In a professional setting. So whether it's when I've had my cake business, I've still done it since I joined up to Belief Coding. I still did it when I was doing my life coaching accreditation. I would look at all the other life coaches out there and think, well, they've got more to offer than I have. With Belief Coding, when I had my first other sessions with fellow trainees, I'll be like, well, they've been training longer than I have, so they're going to be better than I am. It's just, it's exhausting. And I'm sure many people will resonate with that. And so that was what I decided to do one of my sessions on last week. And it was the day before I went to Sheffield, where the setting in Sheffield it was run by Belief Coding, the founder of Belief Coding, but it was for anybody really who wanted to join it. So whatever business you've got, if you want to promote a business and know how to promote your business and grow your business, it's for anybody. But obviously most of the people there were to do with the Belief Coding sort of community. And one of my actions to take that came away from this session that I had around comparing myself to others, one of the actions I said I was going to take to test to see if it worked was to ask a question at that session. So obviously it's all in one room, and just to ask a question, because normally that would be the kind of thing I would just sit in the background. Nobody would really know I'm there. And I would maybe go and approach somebody at the end to ask a question. I wouldn't normally put my hand up and ask it in front of everybody, due to the risk of people thinking I'm stupid. And, that's me comparing myself to others, well, everybody else knows the answer to that question. So if I ask it, I'm going to look stupid. So obviously after this session, we worked on all of that. And after this session, I said at the business coaching, I was going to ask a question if I thought of something to ask. Well, let me tell you, at times I wish I would shut up. It was just, I couldn't believe how much I was putting my hand up and putting myself out there. And don't get me wrong, there were still things like we had to say our name. We had to stand up in front of everybody, say our name, what we do, what we offer, and how it can help people. And I absolutely shit myself doing that. I was really super shaky doing that. But that's only going to get better over time. That's fine. But the fact that I put my hand up so many times, like, how English is that? Putting your hand up to ask a question. But, putting my hand up and asking a question in front of people, which normally I would just be so scared to do because people might think I'm stupid, or like, why doesn't she know the answer to that question? But so many people came up to me after and said, oh, thanks for asking that question. Or thanks for saying that. I didn't want to say that. So it's like, not only am I now not comparing myself to others as much, I'm saying things that I would normally feel really uncomfortable saying, and people are really resonating with it. So that was my experience of showing how that particular session has worked on me. And you know what? I've just realised I've been talking about that for over 9 minutes now. So, and I hadn't planned to talk about this. Hadn't planned for this episode to be around that. I'd actually planned a whole different episode. But I'm now thinking, now I've been talking about that for, now nearly 10 minutes. I'm just thinking, shall I share more of my experiences of things that I have worked on? Normally, I wouldn't like to talk about myself for this long. Like normally it would be in the back of my head, like, oh no, people don't want to hear about me all the time. But actually, the lovely messages of support I've had from people do want to know about it. So I'm going to tell you actually about other sessions that I've had and what I've got from it, just because I think it's good to be vulnerable, and I think it's good to tell people, it's good to show people what I'm working on as well, because how can you relate to me? How can you resonate with me if I'm not telling you what I'm working on? Because I know you guys are all working on things. We're all working on things. So yeah, I'm going to tell you what else I've worked on. So the first session I had with somebody, I was feeling really anxious. The day leading up to it, I was feeling really anxious about it, because I was like, oh my God, I'd already done a few sessions with other people at this point, like held them for other people. And the fact that people sort of open up to you. And then I was getting really anxious about somebody else holding it for me, thinking, I'm feeling really vulnerable here. So I did my session around like the worry or the fear of letting go, because I was worried about what was going to come up for me, I think. I'm not sure why I was actually anxious about it, but it was all around the fear of letting go and being vulnerable in somebody else's hands. And at the end of the day, that is when somebody's trained in something, that is what they're trained to do, is to hold you and guide you in that space. That's what I'm training to do, is to hold people and guide them in that space. So, I mean, thinking back, what a silly fear, what a silly worry, like being anxious about letting go in front of somebody else who's training for this. But, you know, our brains work in very strange ways sometimes. And that was what I was worried about. Like you can tell yourself the rational feelings, like, well, of course I'm not going to get judged, and of course I'm safe to do that, and of course, but if you don't truly believe that, you can tell yourself as much as you want, but if you don't believe it, then you're not going to feel safe. You're not going to feel that it's okay to be vulnerable in somebody else's hands. So yeah, that was what I worked on for my first session. And it was so funny because the most random memory came up for me, and it was all around the first time I got drunk when I was not very old, younger than what my boys are now. Actually, not both of them, but one of them. So it was all, I had trapped emotions that I'd suppressed since being, how old was I then? 13, I think. Sorry to say. I was 13. And all of this fear of letting go, the emotion, I can't remember what emotions were linked to it now, but all of those emotions were suppressed since I was 13. So whilst it might seem a bit random that my fear of letting go and being vulnerable in somebody else's hands, on the face of it, you might think, how is that linked to getting drunk for the first time? But actually, then when it sort of comes round full circle, you can see exactly how, you know, when those emotions are trapped and life goes on, and I'm now 41, so that's nearly 30 years ago. I was going to say 20 years then, but no, 30 years ago. So yeah, I've been unknowingly carrying that around with me, and for 30 years. So of course it's going to lead on to things like the fear of letting go, the fear of being vulnerable in somebody else's hands. And that then leads on to being your true, authentic self. You know, it's amazing how these things all stack up, and the longer you leave these things suppressed, the more it escalates, So that was maybe why I was worried about speaking my truth and being my authentic self all the time. I hope this is all making sense, and I hope, maybe people can resonate with this. I don't know. So something else I then worked on was the fear of letting people down, the worry around letting people down. And there was a reason why I decided to work on this particular day. And something had happened where the day before I'd made a mistake. And because we're all human, we all make mistakes. But this resulted in me feeling like I'd let a family member down. And I barely slept that night because of the worry of letting that person down. So that was what I worked on. It turns out that person didn't feel let down whatsoever. It was all in my bloody head, of course. But again, rationality goes out the window. You can tell yourself all those things. Of course, that person isn't going to be upset with me. But if you don't truly believe that you're allowed to make mistakes, then of course you're going to have a fear of making mistakes. Of course you're going to worry when you make the slightest mistake. And this was coming out in me in ways like having the need to say yes to people all the time. I know I've touched on this before in previous episodes, but feeling the need to say yes to people all the time when actually there's certain things that I haven't got time to do or it isn't convenient for me to do at that time. But I say yes anyway because I don't want to let people down. It also leads to me feeling worried about looking stupid if I make mistakes. Did I just say that? I'm not really sure. I'm very foggy today. But because of not wanting to look stupid if I make a mistake or if I don't know something, this was leading to me not being able to ask for help when I needed it and not being able to accept help when I needed it. So the new beliefs that I wanted to imprint after this particular session, so the fear of letting people down, the new beliefs that I imprinted were I'm perfect the way I am and I don't have to prove anything to anyone. I forgive myself as much as I forgive other people because I am a very forgiving person and I need to remember that other people are just as forgiving. It's okay for me to ask and receive help, to ask for help and receive help. Learning from mistakes helps me grow and everything I do is the best with the best intentions. So that was such a beautiful session. And like Craig will say this, but I'm the worst for accepting help, whether that's help around the house, whether that's advice when it comes to running and growing a business. Like the amount of times that Craig has offered me help, and he always says, oh, you get really defensive when I offer you help. And at the time I didn't feel like I am, but on reflection, I feel like I should know all the answers. So I'm like, yeah, I already know that. But actually I don't already know that. And that's okay. It's okay. He's run a business before. He's running a business now, even though he works for somebody else, but he's still running a business now. And it's okay for him to know more about that than me and for him to help me. And yeah, he must have found that very, very frustrating before. But so it has led to me now being able to listen to his advice and not feel defensive and not feel like I should already know that, because it's okay. I'm just learning and I'm always going to be learning. And that's one of the things that I think is so important for everybody to remember, not just me, but for everybody to remember, is that whatever stage you're at, you always need to be learning to grow more, because otherwise you're going to hit a certain level and you're not going to be able to build any further. But again, logic tells you that, but if you don't truly believe that, then it doesn't really matter, because you're going to believe what you believe. Right, so another session that I had was, and this is quite a funny one, but it's the fact that I feel the need to have at least one drink. If I'm honest, I feel the need to have it more than that. But in order to dance or like be fun, or again, actually, as I'm saying all these things out loud, I've not actually thought about all of these in one go, if you know what I mean. I've just taken them each one at a time. But actually, now I'm talking about them all together. They're all tying in together, actually. Needing to have a drink in order to dance and be fun. So that, again, is being my true, authentic self, isn't it? Like, I feel that I felt before, I felt that people would judge me, would laugh at me, that people would think I can't dance. Like, who cares if you can dance or not? Like, it all sounds really stupid. Now I'm saying it out loud. It sounds really stupid. But yeah, that is what I haven't actually tested it out since. I haven't had the opportunity to go out and test if I can now get up and have a dance without the need to have more than, a drink or whatever. Just get up and dance and not be worried. But my friend Becky, if you're listening, Becky, you'll be glad to know that I have done this session now, because I promised you this was going to be one of the sessions that I do. So yeah, I really can't wait to test that out. So if anyone does fancy a night out, then let me know. I'd love to know if I feel more confident getting up and drinking, because like before, even if I went to a wedding, I still wouldn't feel comfortable getting up and dancing if I hadn't had a drink. And like, I don't just mean, I probably, if I'm totally honest, like I said before, if I'm totally honest, I think even one drink, I don't feel comfortable enough to get up and dance. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's really quite sad, isn't it? Having to rely on alcohol. But there we go. And again, when we went into my subconscious, that is linked to a time in my life when I felt very lost. And that was when I was like 15, 16. I didn't really know my place. I didn't have like a set group of friends at that time. I just used to sort of flip between one group to another. And like the memory that came up for me when we opened up my subconscious was at my school prom, my high school prom, when I left school. And do you remember when it was when Run DMC, I think it had already been out before that, but this was like when it came out again. So Run DMC, and like everyone used to get in a circle, and then one person would go in the middle and do like a stupid dance. And I couldn't do it. I could not do that at my school prom. Everybody else was doing it, but I couldn't. So that was the memory that we healed, was like me being at my school prom. And yeah, it's so funny how, like if you would have said to me before that session, why can't you have a drink? Why can't you get up and dance without having a drink? And well, I wouldn't be able to tell you the answer. I would have put it down to like fear of judgment, worrying that people are going to laugh at me, because obviously I've been in that situation before when people have laughed at me. But I wouldn't have been able to pinpoint a particular memory where it actually came from. So yeah, it's amazing to be able to access your subconscious just to see where the root cause of this issue has come from. And it might not always be, you might not always think it's relevant, but actually then when you go round and round, it always is relevant. And then today I had a session. I woke up with a really groggy head this morning, and every now and again, I haven't actually had it for a long time, but every now and again I'll wake up with this stiff feeling on the base of my head and on my neck, where I'm obviously carrying lots of tension around. So we use that today because it can help with pain as well. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with like the metaphysical side of things. And I wasn't, to be fair, until I heard about Louise Hay and read the Louise Hay book. I wasn't really sure about how pain comes about. But basically everything starts off in your mind, and it manifests as a physical or emotional discomfort. So it's like that link between your brain and your body, and it always comes out in some kind of physical or emotional, sometimes both, form. Anyway, that's a whole different episode. But basically what I'm saying is, today we worked on this pain I had in my neck. So we went through all the emotions that I was feeling around it, like how it makes me feel when I have this pain. And then once we'd opened up my subconscious, it took me back to a previous relationship where I felt very frustrated with that relationship. And so we have worked through that, a memory that came up regarding this relationship. And well, we'll see. I mean, that was only today. And we'll see how, the pain has gone down already, but the only time will tell. So I will get back to you on that as to whether that has permanently worked for me going forward. But it's just, it's amazing how we hold so much that starts off in our brains, and we just hold it in our body. So like every time you've been in an awkward situation, or you've been uncomfortable, or somebody has said something to you and you don't agree with it, and instead of speaking your truth, you physically swallow it down. You're suppressing that emotion, and of course that emotion is going to get trapped. Anyway, like I said, I didn't actually plan to use this episode to tell you about all the sessions that I've had, but I'm glad I have, because whenever it's great having very informative episodes every now and again, like I did the last couple of weeks with the subconscious and with clearing energy. Those are very informative. But I think every now and again, whenever I have episodes where I just open up a little bit more and tell you what's going on in my head, I get a lot of feedback from people saying that it's really helped them be able to resonate with me and see that, I'm working through things as well, because I always will be. But I'm all up for sharing my journey along the way with you, if you want to listen to it. If you don't want to listen to it, then why the hell are you here? But no, seriously, I am all up for transparency and telling you exactly what I'm working through, because like we've said in the past, everybody has difficult things that they go through, and one person's difficult things that they go through are going to seem completely irrelevant to what somebody else is going through. We all have different experiences in life, but that's it. We all have experiences. And it's those that happen to us are what forms our experiences going forward. Am I making sense? I don't know, but you know what I'm saying. Hopefully you know what I'm saying anyway. But I tell you what, I have got a huge list of things that I want to work on. So many things. But being scared of spiders, being comfortable in my own skin, being safe to admit that I want success. There's a lot of shame that comes with people admitting that they want to be successful. So that's something I want to work on. Leaving things to the last minute, procrastination, the list is just getting longer and longer. But that's great, because I'm always going to have things to work on. I'm always going to have things that are just going to make me that little bit better and just feel that little bit better about myself each time I work on it. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. It's a bit more of a heart-to-heart episode, certainly more than what I was planning. What I was planning, I will do another week. That's absolutely fine. And it's more about reaching goals and looking back on what you've achieved. But we'll deal with that another time. It just felt right to share a little bit more about myself and what I'm working on with you this week. As you know, I always like to thank different listeners in different places, and somewhere that keeps catching my eye is somebody who listens. Well, I've actually had a number of downloads the last episode that I published from a place called Medicine Hat in Alberta, which I think is Canada. Am I right? So if that's you, hello. Medicine Hat. What a name of a place to live. Like, how cool is that? Medicine Hat. That is so cool. Has it got anything to do with medicine? It must do. Anyway, if you're from Medicine Hat, or you know why it's called Medicine Hat, am I even saying it right? Please let me know. Stop me looking like a dick anymore, but please do let me know. I'd love to know where that name comes from. So get in touch. Obviously, if you're on Instagram, that's the best way to reach me. Or you can find the link in my show notes of how to reach me. But yeah, I would love to know, what is that all about? Medicine Hat. How super duper cool. But thank you as always, everybody, wherever you are. Thank you so much for listening. And we will be more on more of an informative episode next time. I feel like I've got my heart to heart out of the way. You guys know me a little bit better than you did before, hopefully. And you know what limiting beliefs I'm working on. Feel free to share yours with me as well. Anyway, in a couple of weeks' time, I shall speak to you again. Until then, lots of love and stay positive. See you then. Bye.